Today is the 21st day of February 2015, the mother's birthday. And it is an honor for me to welcome Hansa, my beloved sister, to hear from her about the mother, the ashram, her life. Welcome, Hansa. When did you first hear about Mother and Sri Aurobindo?
Okay. My first experience with the mother was I was sleeping next to my mother, my mom, and mother came and took me. I was 4 years old then. I had not heard about Mother or Sri Aurobindo, but she came and took me from the leftmost window of our room, and then as we started walking, I felt I don't need to be afraid because Mother is taking me. And we continued. I don't remember if I was holding Mother's hand or most probably Mother was holding my hand. Then we started going up and came, as we went up on the left-hand side, there was a building, and as a 4-year-old child, I thought it was a terrace, is how I understood. And I looked left, and I saw Shiva, Shankar Bhagwan, standing there, and as I understood, I didn't see all the other gods, but I understood here that all the gods were in front of him, and all the gods were in that terrace. Then as Mother took me, the road was golden, beautiful golden color, and the clouds were also beautiful golden clouds. I have never seen such beauty. And she continued up on that golden road and clouds, and when we went further above, then she turned right, and as I understood also terrace. So when we entered the terrace, then she let go of my hand, and she went and sat on the ledge of the terrace at an angle like she sits on her Japanese photo pose. I started looking around. Kursi nahi hai. Where is chair? There is no chair. I continue to look for a chair.
For Mother? A chair for
No,
Mother?
Mother was sitting on the ledge.
Oh, so you needed a chair.
Not for me. Where will he sit when he comes? I didn't know who he is. I didn't know. But where will he sit when he comes? I kept on looking everywhere and couldn't find a chair. And then Sri Aurobindo happened. And as I said, he's here and no chair. And as Sri Aurobindo started sitting, the green chair that we see in his photographs, that happened. And he sat down. And then Mother, where she was sitting, Mother came over and she talked to Sri Aurobindo and said, you had asked me to go and bring her, and here she is. And that was a surprise to me. So I put my hands and said, Prabhu, did you ask Mother to bring me here? And he indicated yes, and also indicated your place is here, but indicating his feet. So then when I woke up in the morning, my mother was sitting in the kitchen, and she was sitting on the low stool. In Gujarati, we called it patla. So I scooted up next to her, and I started telling her about my dream. What I said to her is, Ba, I have to go where there are two gods, up above. No other gods have reached there. Only these two gods have reached up there. And that is where I'm supposed to be. So I don't know how I understood that no other gods have reached or what, but that is just what I said to my mother, and that is how I understood for myself.
At the age of 4.
at age of 4.
So when did you first come to the ashram?
Okay. Then somebody was taking my sister in Kampala to Sri Aurobindo Center. They took her, and she really liked. So she started going and taking us to Sri Aurobindo Circle, and that is how I got to know about Mother and Sri Aurobindo. She also was telling us and my parents. So my mother also became Mother Sri Aurobindo's devotee, and.
Do you remember the year you first came to the ashram?
Yes. When I started going to circle and knowing about ashram, then I wanted to come and study here. I wanted to come and live here. And I always wanted to serve Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So in those days, parents did not allow their young daughter to travel alone. So my sister Savita Ben wanted to come and bring her son Kiran, and she said, because my parents would not allow me to go alone, she said, agreed to come. So we all three, Savita Ben, Kiran and myself, we all came here. We came to Bombay and then 2 nights in Gujarat and then to Pondicherry. And
do you remember?
I was 21 years old, 1963.
I see.
And before that, Mother had stopped giving darshan for a while. So I don't remember if we reached here on 19th or 16th of February. And then Mother, that was 21st February, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was the first darshan Mother had given. And I started volunteering in children's dispensary, it was called. Nipenda was the doctor there. And when I went to embroidery department, I was very worried because they want perfection and I am sloppy. So I said, they will not like my work. What am I going to do? What work can I do? And Akka suddenly asked me. She said, somebody has given us this embroidery machine and nobody knows how to do embroidery on the machine. And I was very happy right away. I said, Akka, few months back I went and learned how to do machine embroidery. So she said, can you come and teach? I said, yes. So she organized one person for our second, third. She said, what time? I said, whatever time you tell me, I'll be here. And that was the best. Those 3-4 months were the best time in my life.
Now you mentioned Dr. Nipendra.
Yes.
You knew him?
Yes. He was a very, very wonderful person, a very good doctor. And when I went to work for him, few things happened that day. And that got me really worried, that before I end the day, he's going to fire me. He told me to wash needles. In those days that you have to wash the needle and the syringe. So I didn't plug the drain, so needles went down the drain. So second job he gave me to wash the syringe. I didn't fill up the sink with water, and dropped the syringe and it broke. So third job Nipenda gave me. He said needed to apply some pink medicine on one of the young child's. And he said, shake the bottle. So I grabbed the bottle with my hand and started shaking. And that pink solution was splattered on the roof and wall. Okay. That wasn't enough yet, okay? So there was a patient, and Nipenda told me, go and get camphor spirit. So I went in, got the camphor spirit, and he said, apply. So I applied. Nipenda told him, when that spirit dries away, you can go. So this gentleman is sitting there with his thumb, waiting for it to dry, and it wasn't drying up. So after a while, Nipenda said, what is going on? And he looked and he called me. He said, I told you camphor spirit and you have applied camphor oil. And he told me, he said, you listen very carefully and you do exactly as, for the medicines exactly as you are told. And he would also, then he told me, he said, if the lawyers make the mistake, person goes up 6 feet. And if the doctors make mistake, the person goes 6 feet underground. So you have to be careful.
I have a story of Nipendra to tell you.
Yes.
When the young kids would come into him, he would listen to all their problems. And then, when they finished, he said, what medicine would you like, the red or green?
Yes. Yes. He always gave them a
It was
choice.
sugar pills. And he knew so beautifully. He knew people very well.
Yeah.
He understood. So you came to the ashram, you started working there, and then embroidery.
Yeah.
And then what happened? You were living here
Yes,
from
I was staying with,
63.
we stayed in, it is Delhi house now. It was Chitra house then.
Okay.
So we were staying on the ground floor there. And Akida taught me swimming in the sports ground swimming pool. Icha Ben also, Icha Foy or Icha Ben. She was teaching swimming on the seaside, right outside the tennis court.
This is
On
when
the
we had
beach
a
then.
beach. We had
Yeah.
a beach in Pondicherry, beautiful beach, and the pier that went
Yeah.
all the way out. Now it's all gone because they built this long pier far down, and the ocean took all the sand with it. So you learned swimming,
Yes.
and what else? Any sports that you did?
I started, Pranavda started teaching the exercises, but I didn't get there on time. So he gave me a chance, and then he said, okay, no more. It was my mistake that I lost such wonderful opportunity. And I learned from Akka how to love. And that was the best lesson. Akka would tell me, she said, I don't know why, just the love flows out for you. And she used to call me Hansi. And I wanted to learn tatting, and anybody I asked didn't have time to. So Akka said, Hansa has time, why wouldn't we have time? Akka said she will teach me. So she taught me how to do tatting, and that tatting I used any time in life. In earlier times, if there was a stressful situation I was going through, then I would take Akka's hook and that tatting, and that helped.
So how long did you live in the ashram?
3 or 4 months.
And then?
And then went back to Uganda. I wanted to stay in the ashram, and what mother said is, I wrote to mother, Joshida, Kirit Joshi and Mohini Ben. They were the one who taught me how to write a letter to the mother. And Joshida gave me a lot of guidance, because I was there to make deciding which way to go. And so he had all these Gujarati classics by heart. And we would say, Joshida, Varta ko, tell the story. So in tennis ground, we would sit till midnight, Savita Ben, Kiran and Mohini Ben, Joshida, and then he would be telling us this story, and through that he was giving me guidance. And those were the beautiful, beautiful times. And I didn't like to eat Loki. So Mohini Ben said, we are going to, either we were having meals at our place or at Mohini Ben's. And Mohini Ben said she was going to make Loki shak. I said, I don't like Loki, I'll not eat it, not eat it, not eat it. And she said, you can try, I don't want to try. So when we went over, then Mohini Ben picked up a teaspoon and said, you need to try at least 1 teaspoon. She put it on in my plate. So I tried. I said, okay, I'll have 1 more teaspoon and 1 more teaspoon. And from then on, I just loved Loki shak. So things that were I was resistant to, were breaking down.
And how long did you live in Uganda after you left the ashram?
Yeah, before I was in Kenya. So after going back, then I got married. And I used to write to Akka, and the kind of a person Akka is Vasudhaben. My mother was 62, and she felt that Akka was her best friend. My daughter was 3.5, and she felt that Akka was her best friend. And I felt that Akka was my best friend. So that is how Akka Vasudhaben was. And I used to write to Akka. So when I didn't realize that Akka was reading my letters to the mother, because Akka would write the answers.
Oh.
And Akka told me, said, write in English. And then she said, I'll help you learn English. My English was not very good.
Yeah.
So I thought Akka was going to. So then I had to think, how do I express myself in English and write accordingly. And I thought Akka would correct my grammar or whatever in the letter and send it back. I kept on waiting, but no letters came back with the corrections. And years after, I realized that mother must have said, I'll teach you, because my English started taking off to improving.
Wow. And then how many years did you spend in Africa?
I was 21 years old in Kenya. One thing I would like to tell you is, when I was born, my father had established a town, Embu, and I was born there. I was 2.25 pounds, which is 1 kilo, and 7 months, born at 7 months, pre-me, and the doctors and hospitals were not as available. There was a hospital, but doctors maybe they're not. And when I was 6 days old, my father started having throwing up blood and passing blood. And my brother was 2.5, 3 years older than me, started having seizures. So my mother had to go on a truck 4.5 hours away. So she asked my maternal uncle, we called him Mota Mama, what should I do? Because my mother knew I would not survive the trip, and can she take care of my father, my brother, or me? So my mama told her, leave her with me, I'll take care of her. So he would take me, put me in a box, put some quilts and put me there and put me on the counter. Now all these people coming to the shops, the African, like Kenya tribes, they would come to do their shopping and everything. And in those days, people didn't take bath. When they came to the river, they would take bath. But more than that, to fight the cold, they would take the blanket, put some kind of oil, and beat it in the dirt to thicken it up, and that is what they would wear.
Oh.
Children would have runny noses. Nobody bothered to clean. It was just normal. And mosquitoes, flies, malaria, yellow fever, elephantitis, lot of sicknesses going around. Now, after so many years, I was looking at the documentary, and it's a 2.25 pound baby in the incubator, and the pediatrician and heart specialist and nurses, they were struggling to help that baby survive. And it just shocked me. I said, who did all that protection for me? And I felt that Mother and Sri Aurobindo had put me in their hands and closed it and kept me safe. So, a lot of things Mother Sri Aurobindo does for us, even in this life, and we don't realize till a lot later how much they have helped. And when I was supposed to leave Uganda, Idi Amin was throwing us out, gave us 90 days to leave. We were going to have Sri Aurobindo's issue of Africa Samachar, which was Gujarati newspaper, was read by most of the countries in Africa at that time. And Indian High Commission was going to have with us in collaboration Sri Aurobindo issue. But they must have got a wind of what Idi Amin was going to be doing. So they backed out. They told us, you can do it. But the circle membership was not that big, so we couldn't afford to take on that. So we decided that we'll celebrate Sri Aurobindo's birthday as well as we could, and which we did. Now later I thought it is good that the issue didn't come out. It would have drawn attention to Sri Aurobindo circle members. But then after a few years, I said how the destiny could have been changed if Sri Aurobindo's issue had come out. But it took me quite a few years to realize that. And I had 1972 calendar of Sri Aurobindo, and even when Idi Amin said we had to leave, I wasn't crying. I worked for a lawyer, Hansa Patel, and he told me, I was his office manager at that point. My supervisor had left the country a few months before. So he told me, we'll put a stop to civil and criminal cases, and will not help people who are rich, will not help people who have education. Rich can pay and get it done. Educated people can do it for themselves. We'll help the people who have no money and no education. Widows, poor families with their documentation. Because people didn't think they were going to live for generations. They hadn't got marriage certificate, birth certificate, passports. So that is, we were helping. And I was expecting then. When we left Uganda, I was 5.5 months pregnant. I was looking at Sri Aurobindo's photo and praying, and I started crying. I said to Sri Aurobindo, I try to live my honest life as honest. I work hard and earn my pay. I don't try to do something wrong to people. Why do I have to leave everything and go? And then I started, I'll miss my friends, I'll miss my job, everything. And I said, the most I'll miss is you. I'll miss Aurobindo Circle, and the most I'll miss is you. So Sri Aurobindo smiled and said, Beta, why do you think that from Pondicherry I can come here and not come to any part of the world? So that was his assurance that no matter where I went, Sri Aurobindo will be with me. And at that time I remembered the story of Tulsi. Lord had given her a boon, and Tulsi said, give me a husband. Then again, Lord gave her again a boon, and she said, give me a husband. So the Lord said, twice you ask for a husband, and you will have 2 husbands. So Tulsi started crying that no, people will shun me, and they will think of me as a fallen woman. And the Lord told her that she will have 2 husbands, but she will not be a fallen woman. She will be respected as purity. And unless Tulsi Patra is on the prasad, that no gods will partake that food. So that is why the Tulsi Patra goes on. But I remembered that. And I asked Sri Aurobindo, I had 2 daughters. It didn't matter sons or daughter, but just by chance I said, am I going to have a son? And a couple of minutes later I again asked, am I going to have a son? And that Tulsi story hit my head. I asked twice and 2. So I said to Sri Aurobindo, am I going to have 2 sons? And he just smiled. When the doctor told me on 24th November that I was going to have twins, I didn't remember. Even after they were born, I didn't remember. Later I realized that Sri Aurobindo had already told me. But that assurance that he'll be with me and always, even when the difficult situations, the lawyer I worked for, both were Manubai. The senior one passed away after 3 weeks I worked for him. And the army people, there was a person that had car service company. He got the army people to go and harass senior Manubai's widow. So junior Manubai, the one I worked for, went there in the middle of the night to convince them whatever problem you had was with her husband. Why don't you leave this lady alone? So they went after Manubai. So one day they called, I answered the phone, and it was very menacing voice. When I picked up the phone, I knew, but I put the call through to Manubai. Manubai walked out of his office, looked at me. I had never seen fear on his face. And that day, there was a fear on his face. And he said, Hansaben, I'm going, and he was going to tell me what place. I said, don't say, because I didn't want other staff members to hear where he was going. After 5 minutes after he left, 4 or 5 army officers came with machine guns. Where is he? He went straight in his office, didn't see. Came, he started threatening me. And I tried to play a fool. I said, these bosses, rich people, they don't even count us. We are poor, lowly clerks. They don't tell us where they are going. If he told me, wouldn't it be nice I could tell you where he has gone? And this and that. Just inside I'm praying to Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Sri Ma Bhagavati Sharanam Mama, Sri Arvind Sharanam Mama. So the whatever comes is what I need to. So that day as I was walking home, I thought a car would get on the curb and hit me, or a bullet would come from behind me and go through. Because those people had showed up and they asked where he was, and they told me, we'll come and kill you. We are going to kill you. So I never mentioned anything to my husband or any friends or anybody. And Manubai called me later and he said, I am. I said, I know, don't say, because the phones could be recorded. He said, Hansaben, close the office. I said, Manubai, I'm not closing the office. If we close the office, they will think that they have us running. I'll just keep it open and business as usual. So after 3 days, Manubai came. There was army officer there sitting there, and I said, walked in, Manubai, there is somebody sitting there. Manubai said, that is my bodyguard. He is on a higher position than those threatening.
Very interesting.
Yeah. He was very, very honest. He always helped people who were poor or were in low positions. He would help them.
So you had 90 days to leave.
Yes.
You came directly to Pandi?
No, I went. We couldn't take any money.
That's right.
But I had my jewelry I was saving. My husband is very generous. So for children's education, my daughter's education, the gold was the best choice for me, because that cannot be cashed easily, and I had. So I managed to get that out. And it was mother's. We went to the airport. I said to Mother, little bit more material things won't make much difference. A little bit more money won't make much difference. The reason was that if I sell my household belongings, I would have a little more money. If I make the parcels and send it out, then I would have more material things. So till the day before I was supposed to leave, I had not sent things out. Only one trunk. My sister was going to come to India, sent with her. Then the day before, I felt I haven't done anything for my children, and it is my responsibility to. So at 12:30, Before that, I put things in the open boxes in my sewing machine, and I had a Tupperware set there, and few belongings. I put it on the truck, open boxes, because there were 6-7 army checks up. And men, when they went to the airport for this, they would go in a convoy of 3 or 4 cars, few men together. I went alone. There was one driver and there was one African man, mother and Sri Aurobindo with me. That was my escort. So I went through 6-7, and army officer one was drunk and started talking bad. And I just said, Saudia Mungu, that means God's wish. I knew which God I was telling him about. And the line was long. My husband told me when I was leaving, there is no way you can send. People go and spend 3 nights there, then they are able to send things. I said, I'm going to go. If it goes, fine. If it doesn't, fine. Then one lady I knew was there at the airport where we were. So we both took our things at the same time. And at 5 o'clock, okay, what happened was people were sitting in lines for so many days. We were standing at the gate looking inside to see what was going on. And the police officer told the army officer, he said, it is a shame on us that these women have to stand out there. Why don't you let them bring their things in? So the army officer said, I'll not allow them to bring that truck here. They can have it carried and I'll allow them to bring it in. So we took it in, it got processed. At 5 o'clock, the windows closed. Only thing left to take the label and put them on, and then it would go on the truck. So my friend told me that she would come next morning, take the labels and put them on. And she wanted me to give her some money so she can give to the driver who would put those on plane. So in 12 days when I reached London, I received everything intact, nothing missing. The friend who had processed the same time, I met somebody, her friend, after 10 years or so, 15 years, and I said, I never saw her again, but can you please tell her that I received everything of mine? And he just looked at me like, I said, what happened? She said, Jyoti Ben did not receive one piece of her.
So you landed in England?
Yeah.
And then?
We were in a refugees camp. I never wanted to have someone support me. I had started working as a teacher when I was 14, and I was supporting myself. So living on somebody else was the difficult. But I said, I don't have much choice. I cannot be too proud, so my daughters would suffer. So next morning I went in and I said, whatever work you want to give me, I'll do it. So it was going with somebody to the doctor's office to translate, for job interview, then liaison for the kitchen, people working volunteering in the kitchen, between other refugees in the camp and the administration. So I was doing that, and they trusted me because I didn't play any games. Straightforward, this is what it is. And I used to convince people that we should be respectful. This money is not coming from the sky. People are working, they are paying their taxes. That is what is supporting us. So we should not waste and be respectful for that. They had some ministers had come and I was helping in the classroom, called me out and said, what can we do that would help? I said, all these people, we go stay outside. If the school called, either they will think if it is not emergency, they might think it is an emergency and worry. Or if it is emergency, they will think it is just usual call. So they need to learn English. Otherwise, they will be prisoner in the home. So they started English classes. They started sewing classes, knitting classes. And I used to go and translate for the teachers
Was this in London?
in London. And I was more than 5.5 months pregnant at that time.
Yeah.
But I was active from morning to evening. Mother was giving me the energy to do.
And how long did you stay in London?
About 5 months. My twins were born in London when I was still in refugees camp. And then we stayed in, it was a Ockenden venture. It was an organization that helped. So we stayed in a big mansion that somebody had endowed it for, so poor children can go and have 2 weeks, 3 weeks vacation there. We stayed there, and then they gave council housing. I went to see the house on Thursday afternoon. The wallpaper was falling, but that wasn't a concern. There was a lot of dust, and there were sockets hanging out, which worried me a lot, because I didn't know anything about electricity or fixing. So I was worried about my children's safety. I couldn't sleep at night. Thursday night, Friday night. Saturday when we went there, I sat on the steps and cried. Everything was clean, spotless. Everything that needed fixed was fixed. They had 2 cots with little embroidered pillowcases there and quilts, little embroidery, clean diapers, clean clothes, kitchen utensils. Things were not new. They were used, but very clean and usable to serve the purpose. And I started asking when I was living there, this was in Woking, and I asked my neighbors, who did this? And they would say, oh, everybody did. They never said I did.
And this was in Woking?
In Woking.
I'm
very thankful for that. When I left Woking to come to US, everybody gathered together there to wish farewell.
Did you have any other people there who knew of Sri Aurobindo or Mother in the refugee camps?
And not in refugees. There were some people knew, but wasn't a big group. One girl told me that she knows about Mother and Sri Aurobindo. I said, how do you know? She said her brother-in-law was practicing something like going out of the body and getting in touch with some entities, and he got in trouble, and Mother saved him and brought him back to his body, and then told him that never ever to do that again. He might lose his life next time. Something like that, she told me.
So you left London for America?
Yeah, from London I stayed in Camberley, Surrey for 2 months, and from there they gave a council flat in Woking, and I stayed there. Total of in England, Camberley and Woking was 13 months. So when I went to US, my twins were 10 months old.
Oh. And
So
your husband?
2.5-year-old daughter. My husband was, Idi Amin had taken away his documents, all his documents, and he was a stateless person. There were maybe 2,000 who were stateless. They were British protected person, but when the Idi Amin took away the documents, they had no state. They couldn't prove.
Yes.
So US government took 1,000 families like that. So then I went to US and started from scratch. After 10 months, 10-month-old twins,
Yeah.
3.5-year-old daughter,
How long did you stay in America?
32 years.
32 years.
I went back to school because I felt will help my children guide them. So I went back to school. I worked in a factory 7 months, 11 months in a daycare center, then mental health center for 4.5. Then I worked in nursing home for 2 years. and then post office, telemarketing, and all along was helping my husband establish his business.
So he got out of Uganda,
Yeah.
Kenya, and
He
came,
went to
he came
US
directly
first.
to US. Okay.
He went directly
Okay.
to US.
Good. We'll take a couple of minutes break here and continue